Hi everyone, this is Veronica. Today our topic of discussion is about Anaj Mandi fire tragedy that recently broke out in Delhi. So we'll try to discuss here the reasons here, the misgovernance which took place, what are the preventive measures we can take in case of fire safety, what are the fire safety laws. So we'll discuss them in detail. For my video updates and queries, you can connect with me on Instagram and Facebook. Now see what is the relevance of this topic. It will be covered in your mains paper 3, disaster management. At examination level, you should know about fire safety in India. So the context of today's discussion is obviously the deadly fire which took place in Delhi's Anaj Mandi. But this fire broke out in a factory which was illegal because it was unregistered and it killed around 43 workers. So talking about workers' safety here. Okay, so we'll first start with the workers' safety. See, this is basically a reminder that for every big industrial unit shown as evidence of an emerging power, there are scores of rat holes in which workers toil under crushing, dangerous conditions. So the safety of laborers is very important, which is not taken care of by such factories. So poorly paid laborers, where they live and work at the same place. So for example, this unregistered factory, they used to work here and then sleep here also. So these factories are in several residential buildings which turned into unregistered factories. So most of the laborers, these people have come from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh and virtually slept at night next to machines they worked on. So if the probe confirms that the victims are locked in and obstructed by material stacked on the staircases, the culpability of respondents would be enormously high because several people could escape through the narrow approach to the stricken building and a mass of tangled wires. So through the owner and the manager, so already actually police have arrested the owner and the manager. Administrative agencies cannot escape responsibility for allowing the factory and other such units to function illegally without safety audits. So what is the state of fire safety in India? If you look at the governance part of this report, see, this is the third deadliest building fire in national capital in last 2 decades. If you see how many people have been dead, small fires do break out, but then there is no loss to the life and property. So this is the third deadliest building fire in the national capital, and Delhi's chief minister has been blaming the lack of complete authority and obstruction by centre for his party not being able to deliver on a broader development agenda. We have seen that kind of power struggle between Delhi government and the centre because law and order is not maintained by the Delhi government. It totally depends upon the central government. So these blame games starts as soon any such problem take place. So public safety cannot be allowed to fall victim to this irresponsible wrangling between the two. So a reason for the chaotic urban development is a compact arrived between governments and violators. So this allows reasoning to accommodate illegal commercial establishment in residential zones. So what people they do, because there are loopholes in the governance, so people take benefit of it. See, such people, what they do, they build such factories, start such commercial establishments in the residential zones, which is not allowed. And why? What is the reason for this? Weak enforcement of regulations and post facto regularization of illegalities. And the culpability of building owners, as in the Upar cinema case, has not been dealt with sternly. So sometimes when the crime is proven, the irresponsibility is proven in initial cases, the earlier cases, action has not been taken. So Upar cinema is a case which has not been dealt sternly. Okay, so here what could be the way forward? See, political parties, civil society and government, they must chart a new plan to make the older built up areas safe, because now urban development is taking place, but there are places, older places where people are living, and the commercial establishments are going in residential areas, so government should chart a new plan to deal with it. Rules under the new occupational safety code must be strong and enforced properly, because implementation is a big thing, and less government lax enforcement is a very, very bad policy. So because in this case we have seen the shortcomings. So shortcomings were that multiple rules were broken. As I told you, the factory was unregistered, the laborers were sleeping in that factory, the illegal factory was running in residential areas, because usually commercial buildings do not run there. So multiple rules were broken in this case, and lack of no objection certificate from fire department. So this particular factory they do not have no objection certificate, which they should have from the fire departments. So workers living in the factory premises is another thing. Then most of the workers, as I told you, they're coming from the areas and they don't have places to sleep, and the poor conditions of the laborers is the another thing. So these are the shortcomings which we have noticed. So here I like to give you some facts. See, as per National Crime Records Bureau, so this data I am taking from National Crime Records Bureau. So it says 17,700 Indians they die every year. Okay, that means 48 people die every day due to fire accidents. So this data is from 2015 report, and all the people who died, 62% are women. So women are victims mostly of such fires. Then for the two states, Maharashtra and Gujarat, what this report says that two most highly urbanized states. So ultimately fire and urbanization are connected. Poor development, because population is increasing in city areas, in cities, but there is no proper municipal planning. So the two highly urbanized states, Maharashtra and Gujarat, they account for 30% of country's fire accident deaths. Hence there is a direct correlation between deaths due to fire related accidents and population density associated with urbanization. And according to India Risk Survey, so this is another India Risk Survey 2018, where it shows outbreak of fire poses risks to business continuity and operations, and ranks India at third position in the fire accidents, especially in your northern western region, the northern and the western regions of the India. Now see, there are various causes of the fire, so this is important to discuss, so that we can take preventive measures accordingly. Firstly, as we discussed and we have seen in this case also, violation of safety norms and lack of standardization and regulation, because this is a major cause of fire accidents. Large scale construction of false roofs. So these days, for style statement, people are building false roofs, which is not allowed in commercial buildings and multiplexes, and it is against the National Building Construction Code, but people are still building. So there is a lot of violation. Another kind of violation of the rules are also there. This is one of them. Then high-rise buildings are more prone to fire accidents, as they lack adequate inbuilt fire protection systems that make salvaging operations very difficult. Then they are poorly stored goods. Even though they are not flammable, it helps to spread fire and hinder the firefighters gain access to the seat of fire. So it becomes very difficult for the firefighters to reduce the effectiveness of the sprinkler systems. And then there are unclear provisions of fire safety audit in India. The terms of scope, objective, methodology, periodicity of fire safety audit is not clear. And then lack of adequate resources, which means there is lack of preparedness, there are poor fire services in our country which fail to ensure fire safety to cover the population. So based on 2011 study, 65% deficiency was reported in the fire stations itself. And then 78% of budget allocated to buying fire safety equipment, it went totally unused this is the data between 2010 and 2015. So Lack of awareness about the safety arrangement is another, because purchasing or hiring a flat and apartment before starting an institution, it is very important, and this is the last important thing we will ever take care of. We will go buy flats, we will go buy buildings, but this is the last thing we will ever notice whether it is safe from the fire perspective or not. And then faulty wiring, and people go for these cheap wirings. This is one of the reasons. So polyurethane foam used as plastic insulation carries a very high risk of accidental fire, and as most of the times it is exposed to electrical wiring, which on becoming heated due to overloading or short circuit catches fire very immediately. Now there are preventive measures. Modernization of fire safety equipment should take place. Proper designing of electrical fittings. You should never go for the cheap fittings. Awareness is another reason, like while you make a shop, you make a home, you go buy a flat, fire safety should be taken care of. Fire service departments should audit critical fire prone installations also. Then you should always have demarcation in the public areas of entry and exit. In such a case, people should know where to exit from, right? So this is all about today's lecture. If you have any queries, you can connect with me on social media. Thank you.